Really pleased to be here and very excited that EPA, I'm in the Superfund division, but EPA, they actually asked me to come because they heard from Greg and they said, this is compelling, why don't you go out there and be at this meeting? So cheers to you, Greg, for getting EPA's attention. You know, I'm an EPA Superfund employee. I've been working in this space for almost 30 years now. My father worked in this space, and funny enough, he did exactly what you do, Danielle, bioremediation, various types at industrial sites, everything from remote sheep dip vats to, you know, like out on the range, to, you know, oil spills we bioremediated, to Agent Orange in Vietnam. I mean, the whole gamut of industrial sites. Myself worked on a lot of mine sites being in California, in Arizona, and often used compost at those sites. But back to why I'm here. So I'm in the emergency response program. So basically we're going to oil spills and fires, and we're going right along with the county. I was at an oil spill just yesterday nearby. We ride along with the county, and then we get polluters to clean those sites up, or we use the Superfund to do it ourselves. So I've got a long history doing that. Everything from uranium mining to radioactive contamination to fireworks, all sorts of weird stuff. Funny enough, this particular business of responding to wildfires has consumed EPA, especially in California, since about 2007. So the fires have been so big, and including so many strange contaminants, that we've been tasked by FEMA to get out there and check each property. So when you drive around, you see little signs say complete with our little logo. That's my team that did that work. You're welcome. It's a great honor to do it. I live nearby. I'm in South Pasadena. I had a little bit of soot and ash and smoke on my own property. But I've been to 10 or so big wildfires in California and in Lahaina. And what we do is we go first in, we pick up the hazmat, we look for batteries, munitions, propane tanks, paint, anything dangerous, and we scoop that stuff up and we get out of the area. In this case, with the administration change, we got a 30-day notice. Get this done in 30 days. We brought about 300 EPA men and women from around the country to assist, and another 1,300 contractors from all over, including people we trained in Lahaina. You know, they came here from Saipan doing a typhoon response in Guam. They came here to help EPA get our mission done in 30 days. It was a big burnout. A lot of us were just totally shell-shocked after we had a counseling program, the whole 9 yards. But, you know, dealing with this contrast between only being able to get the worst of the worst and our regular job of treating communities and trying to get in there and address contamination has been a challenge. That was a big part of our challenge. And since I live nearby and have this skill set, I really wanted to contribute, in particular in this school that the three of these fine colleagues have talked about, both measurement, application of compost, and bioremediation. So I'm real pleased EPA allowed me to come out. They had me doing soil testing here the last 2 weeks to sort of cover up some of or address some of the things we missed. I don't know, that was a Freudian slip. Anyhow, so happy to be here and really happy to give advice. So EPA, because of this work we've done, including mine reclamation, we have about 50 years of information and advice on how to do bioremediation and compost. And I've consolidated some of that for a public document, hopefully we'll release. But just to say, I'm meant to talk about the action levels, the 80 versus the 200, and how this relates to these tailored solutions. Because as a practitioner...
what he means is there are different numbers from the feds and the state.
And the state.
That's what he's talking about, the difference.
Yeah, and almost every hazardous substance has a number. There's a number for polyaromatic hydrocarbons. There's numbers for different ranges of oil. There's numbers for exogenous, organic contaminants like toxaphene being an herbicide. We have these numbers for soil exposure. And they're based on toxicological studies and epidemiological studies. Some of these contaminants cause cancer and others just pose other toxic hazards. Lead is not a cancer-causing agent, but it poses toxic risks, and arsenic, on the other hand, is a cancer-causing agent. So with lead, there's no safe level of lead, but we deal with a lot of lead. There's lead all over. Background levels in LA I've seen as high as 180 or even higher. I've done property assessments in LA related to businesses and abandoned businesses and cleanups as well in Oakland and in Los Angeles. So we've got these numbers we've got to use. So when we approach a site, we sample that soil, not unlike the way Nicole described, we do a combination of hotspot testing and area-wide testing. The area-wide testing is meant to fit the assumptions of a person living on a property and getting a small amount of contamination each day. The difference between the 80 and the 200, EPA has 200 and the state has 80, is that there are more modeling assumptions in the EPA number, and it's a little more flexible. It's not as conservative or as protective, you could argue, because the other one is more precautionary, but there's a lot more flexibility. And so at EPA, we try to adjust that action level, not like Nicole said, to suit the circumstances that we're dealing with. If there's a child present or if that child's got other sources of lead contamination in their life, we lower our action level. If it's a mine site where the lead is primarily in an inert species like lead sulfate or arsenopyrite, we can raise the action level and clean up less or differently. And interestingly, with compost and bioremediation, you get a combination of effects. In some situations, especially with the organics, you can degrade the chemical itself, like Agent Orange. I've seen actual Agent Orange degraded by bacteria in site. But with metals, you don't have that principle as readily available to you. You can do things like uptake the metals with plants, but for the most part, with metals, we try to stabilize the soil. And compost is particularly good at this, both because it addresses the fine fraction, which we have after fires. We got a lot of dust. The dust has more lead. If we can address that dust, we can reduce risk. It addresses the chemical speciation sometimes. The compost actually interacts with the lead to make it less soluble. And humic acid also will retain and bind both metals and organics in place. And at the same time, get this great environmental benefit of rejuvenating a property. So just as an environmentalist, I've had to dig and haul a lot of stuff, and I have to decide that each time we approach a site, the opportunity to use compost here is super exciting as an EPA person, as an environmentalist.